Good afternoon, everybody. This is Craig S. Smith II here with with part two of my Let's Draw on Something, my Scott Hall tribute. Early this morning, I had cut it short and had to give me a little catch me, a little nod in and everything, and my rest. I left off talking about Scott Hall's beginnings of his career, but I feel everybody in. We recently lost him this past Monday. His family took him off life support after he had suffered three heart attacks from complications after a blood clot was dislodged, which caused him to have complications from hip surgery, and he's like I said, he suffered three heart attacks. Um, I talked in general about his career, how he started with his stints in NWA, then he had a stint with AWA, couple trial matches in WWF. Then he went back to WCW, and then he wrestled some international promotions. And he returned to WCW in '91. He returned to WWF back in 1992, and he would leave in 1996. Which brings us to this part two of this, which is his return to WCW for the second time. Now, I graduated on May 26, 1996 from high school. So the following night, Scott Hall made his appearance on WCW television. He penned his street clothes and claimed to be an outsider, and had started off by saying, "We are taking over," which had people thinking, "Oh shit, WWF is actually invading WCW." But internet was still in its infancy at the time, and such like that. People didn't know that Hall's contract was up. Hall was signed to WCW. So a month later, Kevin Nash would eventually join as well, and join them up on June 10th. And they was in storyline. They were trying to undertake a hostile takeover with WCW, and with this story, with this angle, it paralleled the real life competition between WCW and WWF. Now, I said earlier what Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had did. Uh, they implemented a favored nations clause, which means they want to make, so say at the time people wanted to make that Sting money, which is, so it's like, just say for example, if you making 800 800 grand a year, okay, 800,000 a year, and if you find out, I think the way it's going, if you come in, you want to make Sting money, but you find out somebody making $640,000 a year. This meant, okay, and I pulled this up. It also meant if he signed to a particular dollar amount, he also had a guarantee that no one would be paid more than him. So in other words, if somebody, if somebody come in, they're gonna be making 800,000 a year, and if you making 640,000, you guess what? Your pay gonna get bumped up 160 grand, so you're gonna be making 8,000 with them. Basically saying, can't nobody make more money than anyone. So yeah, guaranteed contracts for the wrestlers. That's all fine and good. I'm trying to find more in depth about the favorite nations thing. So mm, mm, give me one sec. But everybody said it is one of the dumbest clauses in the contract, when basically saying can't nobody make more money than you. So they started that shit, and then a few other wrestlers and got into the whole thing. Um, but during this time, everybody was speculating that this NWO storyline was starting to get hot, and at Bash at the Beach, the third man, everybody was teasing who the third man was going to be, and all this other little stuff. The running joke to that was that Mabel was the third guy, or Sting was going to be the third guy, which would have been pretty cool. But then when Hulk Hogan came out and leg dropped Macho Man, they matched at Bash the Beach, it's pretty clear. So off in the running, we going on that. Make a long story short about what with the NWO was starting to, they Hogan Hall and Nash started to take off with NWO. Merchandise sales are spiking. Hell, I even had an NWO shirt. So people that weren't wrestling fans was getting NWO shirts. Some people liked the color. They liked the black and white. Um, and it was just freaking hot, man. And I believe this was really when um, WCW started kicking their WWF's ass. And if you think about it, uh, maybe seeds of the Attitude Era was kind of planted. They kind of planted the seeds for WWF to kickstart the Attitude Era years later. And honestly, if anybody watched WWF programming, Kevin Nash kind of slick kicked off a little nod of the Attitude Era as Diesel, you know, with the little promo with the promo he cut on Vince after Survivor Series '95. He flipped the Undertaker off. What else? When Ultimate Warrior returned, he was cussing on live. He was cussing on live TV. He said shit unedited, not bleeped out or nothing. When he told Goldust, whatever freaky stuff you into, I really don't give a shit. So, and I mean, then later on, they start getting a little, programs start getting a little bit edgier with WWF storylines you know, was pretty good, but then when you look at what the NWO was doing while you tuned in on the other channel on TNT, you seeing the NWO whooping everybody's ass. So yeah, hey, he really kickstarted that thing when you think about it. And then, like I said, the favored nations clause, guys make sure they got guaranteed money. Like I said, that make sure can't nobody make more than them. So if you make, and also in a strange twist as it is, favored nations applies at your job too. I mean, think about it. I explained it to shout out to Jimmy J Smooth. I explained it to him on one of my live streams about how favored nations worked at our employment, at our old employer. So it's like if you come in, let's say like if Jimmy, um, if I'm gonna say what my old employer was FedEx. So just say if Jimmy become is the new ramp agent, and he coming in making $35, 30, making $35 and 40 some cent an hour. Okay. And I'm making 28. So guess what? I want to put my favorite nations clause and make sure that and match what Jimmy making per hour. Make sure don't nobody make more money than I am. And that's actually that's actually working out. Um Hold on, hitting him up right fast. Yeah, so anyway, I mean him and like I said, him and Kevin Nash, they really looked out for the young guys, but their problem was I think when they was getting a lot of heat for not wanting to put guys over and stuff like that. Scott Hall got in trouble for putting Chris Jericho over one time. I tried to find a match on YouTube, but only Chris Jericho Scott Hall match that you got was just basically a total squash on him. That's the only one that you find. So um, he got in trouble from what he said in one of the shoot interviews. He got in trouble for putting him over and stuff like that. So they had some, so Scott had some pretty good matches when he's partnered up with Nash. They beat Sting and Luger at Hog Wild. Then they beat the Hort. Then they beat technically the Horsemen in War Games, which was because Sting and Luger, they were former Horsemen. They were teaming up with Ric Flair and Double A because they had the enemy in common. Then the following month, which I was kind of pissed off with them about this and the booking, as a fan. The following month, they beat Harlem Heat to win the tag team titles, but Harlem Heat years later never got a rematch. So they would hold the belts They held the belts from February of 97 to October 13th, 97, for a while. Um, so then, storyline, they allowed out, Bischoff allowed the outsiders to do what they wanted to do, stuff like that. And then they would even use the Freebird rule to defend their title. Uh, so he lost in the singles match to Lex Luger and Halloween Havoc in 97. And then he would later win the 60-man battle royal in World War III in 97 to earn a shot to world heavyweight title. So previous year in 98, Hall and Nash would beat the Steiner brothers to win the World Tag Team titles for the fourth time. Then Scott Hall wrestled Larry Zbyszko sold out. He lost by disqualification. The Outsiders would then lose the belts back to the Steiners on the February 9th episode of Nitro. And the Outsiders would once again win the tag team titles for the fifth time by beating the Steiner brothers, with Scott Steiner turning on Rick. So there was a lot of stuff going on this time. In 98 for Hall, uncensored, he went up, he finally got his championship match against Sting. And he still lost. But he was legitimately taken off TV for a short while, and he was forced to WCW to enter into rehab. So, and the reason being because him and Nash showed up on a March 16th episode of Nitro, heavily intoxicated under influence of painkillers. So, yeah, yeah, do what you had to do. But and then I think this is also first sign of his problems, because Hall has gone on record and said that they would take somas. He took so many somas, he would ask Shawn, he said, "Hey, touch me and see if I'm still here. Are you still here?" Yeah, them somas is I've never had any somas, but muscle relaxers and stuff like that. Matter of fact, I had one, and never again, and never again. I'll take one, because muscle relaxer stuff like that. That's not for me. So anywho, but yeah, he had to go to rehab for a while. He came back. Then he returned on Kevin Nash, costing them the tag team titles against Sting and the Giant. So, because this is also during the time when the NWO split the factions. Hogan had NW Hollywood, Nash had the Wolfpack. And that storyline did make sense in 98, splintering factions. I enjoyed that, the NWO war. So then Hall will go on and on. July 6th episode of Nitro, he would face Goldberg. He lost the match, giving Goldberg a shot at Hogan's World Championship, in which Goldberg would later win. So, go blah, blah, blah over there. He had that various feuds. So, Hogan and Hall, they did wrestle on the episode of Nitro. Then they would later attack Kevin Nash. Then later on, Hall would mock Nash by calling him the medium sexy Nash killer. Then on the July episode of Nitro on the 20th, Scott Hall with the Giant they will win the tag team titles again for the sixth time. They defeated Sting and Nash after outside interference from Bret Hart. And they lost the belts again at Halloween Havoc 98. And they faced each other. Hall and Nash would face each other on the same pay-per-view. And Hall won via countout, because Nash hit 2 jackknife power bombs on it, and Nash left. He left the ring and lost the match. What commentators would say was an act of mercy. So he then was ejected from NWO Hollywood in 98 after Scott Steiner took control of the group and started referring himself as Lone Wolf. So fast forward to that infamous match at Starrcade, which Scott Hall helped Kevin Nash beat Goldberg with the use of a stun gun. So Nash won the championship and ended Goldberg's 173rd match streak. Then he was also involved in this infamous act, which I think was pretty stupid. And if you ask me, it was some stupid storytelling. It was stupid booking. So on the first Nitro of January '99, the NWO would reunite. The Wolfpack and Hollywood would reunite and call themselves the Wolfpack Elite. Hogan won the belt back from Nash with the finger poke of doom, and from there, it was just stupid to me to my opinion. That's when I was done with WCW around about that time. I started getting done with them. So then the Super Brawl, Scott Hall, he would defeat Piper to win the U.S. title. So then he suffered a foot injury shortly after, and it forced him to forfeit the title. So he wasn't seen again until October '90, and him and Kevin Nash are sitting in the ringside talking about proclaiming the band was getting back together. So fast forward later, November '99, Paul would defeat Goldberg, Bret Hart, Psycho Sid in a ladder match to win the U.S. title. Then at Mayhem, he would beat Rick Steiner by forfeit and also win the television title. And he successfully defended both titles, the World Television title and the U.S. title, that night against Booker T. So then 8 days later, he vacated the television title, Hall, by throwing it into a trash can, and he was soon stripped of the U.S. title after being sidelined with a knee injury. So Hall and Nash team up to defeat Goldberg and Bret Hart, winning the tag team titles for the sixth time together. And soon afterwards, Scott Hall got injured again, and the tag team titles was vacated. So when he returned December '99, Hall joined Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett, Bret Hart, and Scott Steiner to form up NWO 2000. Hall would later feud with World Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Champion Sid Vicious and his NWO teammate over the title. And Super Brawl in February 2000, Psycho Sid pinned Scott Hall in that triple threat to retain the title, and this was Hall's last appearance in WCW on record. He would go on to he had a little brief cup of coffee at Extreme Championship Wrestling. Then in March of 2001, he went back to New Japan. So he primarily teamed with Hiroyoshi Tenzan, Satoshi Kojima, Scott Norton, and other stablemates in tag matches and six-man tag matches. And he wrestled back, and he stayed in New Japan until 2001, with his last match being against Keiji Muto, aka the Great Muto. So, and also during this time, Vince McMahon, a little side note here, let's go back. In March of 2001, everybody knows Vince McMahon shocked the whole world when he purchased WCW for $1 million. So all the contracts and everybody, and all the wrestlers that Vince was trying to get, guys like Hall, Nash, Sting, Goldberg, they always let their contracts kind of like ride out because of Time Warner stuff. It was and WCW at that time was a hot fucking mess. Because they was owned by Time Warner had bought them out, and really Time Warner didn't want WCW on their television. They didn't even want them on TNT because Ted Turner wasn't in control of it no more. So when Time Warner got it, they didn't want WCW. Some of the higher extra suits didn't want WCW on their TV. They didn't want wrestling on their television because it was garbage. So they said. So Hall basically was riding out that contract till he returned. But his second stint with the WWF 2002, storyline, they interfered in Steve Austin's match against Chris Jericho at No Way Out for the undisputed title. He would later start a feud with Stone Cold. What's going on? He would later start a feud with Stone Cold, in which accumulated at WrestleMania. I guess it was 18. Lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then the following night they lost to Hall and Nash lost to Hogan and The Rock. So, but Hall would later, lose to The Rock. He faced Bradshaw in a match at Backlash, in which he won with help from X-Pac. And then later on in the match, Hall and X-Pac took on Austin in the Big Show, in which Big Show would turn on Austin by choke slamming and join NWO. But here's another thing that also marked his final appearance in WWE. In Dark Side of the Ring touched on this episode, the plane ride from hell, and Hall in the U-Shoot interview talked about it. So it says here on May 5th, on a flight back from England following a tour leading to the Insurrection pay-per-view to the United States, retroactively dubbed the plane ride from hell, Hall became incredibly intoxicated. Two names that were mentioned, two ladies who served as flight attendants during the flight, accused Hall and several other wrestlers for behaving in a sexually inappropriate manner during the trip. But in Hall's defense, he was accused of licking Doyle's. In Hall's case, he was accused of licking Doyle's face and making sexual remarks to the two women. The case was ultimately settled out of court, and the incident would have renewed interest on, as I said, in the September episode of Dark Side of the Ring, talking about the plane ride from hell. But in reality, Scott Hall said that he felt that he was H-bomb, these halcyon pills. So that's why they say never leave your drink out in the open at a bar or wherever you are. So, because I'll tell the story one time. One time I was in Fox and Hound several years ago, and this guy put a had left to use the bathroom. You know, this guy had left to use the bathroom, stuff like that. He left his drink. He left his beer on the bar thing. So I when I noticed it, I saw a guy drop a couple of pills in drop some pills in his in the dude's beer bottle. I noticed it, made a switch, you know, told the bartender, I said, hey, get him a fresh one. I said, because dude dropped put a couple pills in there. I said, okay. So heard him switch it around, put it there. And when the guy sat down, I told him, I said, hey man, I said, next time you might want to take your beer with you. He said, wow, what's up? Say, I had the bartender switch out because somebody walked by and dropped a couple of pills in your bottle. So he was like, whoa. He said, man, appreciate that. You know, I basically saved his life. So, but yeah, so Scott Hall said in the U-Shoot interview that he think that he was H-bombed by Kurt Hennig. So his last appearance, Scott Hall's last appearance with WWE was a Fall Night on Raw. He was a 6-man against Austin, Bradshaw, and Ric Flair, and that ended in the no contest. So he was released from the promotion the next night due to ongoing issues stemming from his substance abuse. Damn. So he had brief stops at TNA wrestling. Some were good. I wasn't really much into TNA because all it was, all I felt it was just like WCW light. So another version of WCW, but they said on the one show, it was supposed to have been Scott Hall was scheduled to team with Samoa Joe and what's this? Okay, that's my notification. You know, so Scott Hall, he was supposed to be showing up at this pay-per-view at Turner Point 2008, but he no-showed. And there was an incident, you know, he no-showed. So Samoa Joe, he made his feelings felt about Scott Hall by saying that, hey, Scott Hall, y'all paid y'all money to see Scott Hall perform, and he no-shows with little no explanation. And then what was said was Kevin Nash after that backstage slapped the shit out of Samoa Joe. And bitch slapped him. And you know, I was surprised Joe didn't try to fight back from what was said. So honestly, somebody bitch slapped me, I'm fighting back. I don't care how big you are. So, but then he returned to Puerto Rico in 2007. But he also started having problems there. He said he started having emotion, he would win a world championship with WWC, the World Wrestling Council. Then on August 4th and September 23rd, he defended the title against Eddie Colon. Then he was scheduled for a wrestling match on December 14th, but he no-showed and he started having But then this around this time, Hall started having emotional problems, and with him drinking, he could not compete. So he forfeited the belt. He wrestled for the Insane Clown Process Juggalo Championship Wrestling for 2 years. Uh, Things happened there. So. Then he returned to TNA in 2010. He was scheduled to team with Nash to take on Beer Money, but he was replaced by X-Pac. And shenanigans went there, stuff like that. Like I said, I didn't follow TNA much, but he also went on to wrestle for various other promotions, and he returned to WWE in 2014 because he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in New Orleans on March. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame. I said March. It was on April 5th, 2014, New Orleans. So he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. Matter of fact, he was inducted again last year as a member of the NWO. But the induction for the 2020 honorees took place last year due to the damn pandemic. And that was it. And then Scott he had got his life in order and stuff like that. He started working out with DDP, did the yoga thing, he got himself back to shape, sober, and whatnot. He had his issues with run-ins with all who don't have issues, man. Personal, issues. He got arrested a couple times. And say, his criminal history ain't dwelling. No, don't want to dwell on that because hey, it's documented about some things he did. Then he started having, he started having health problems. After he was, when he got released to TNA in 2010, he went to rehab, was paid for by WWE. Hall said he went to 4 of them. He paid for 2 himself personally, and Vince paid for the last 2. And after weeks after he checked into the rehab, he had both a defibrillator and a pacemaker implanted in his chest. Also in that same year, 2010, he got hospitalized for double pneumonia. Then during that time, he started having seizures, and then he was diagnosed with epilepsy, resulting in him requiring to take 11 different medications on a daily basis. That's right, 11, to treat his heart and seizure problems. So then last year, he was reported taken to the hospital again. But that following year, he had to be taken to the hospital again due to a seizure. But it was said his agent, his representative, said he was in the hospital to be treated for extreme low blood pressure. So he had to visit a doctor on a regular basis while recovering from double pneumonia for blood work and checkups. And he said he was taken to a hospital to be treated for cardiac issues and remained in the hospital for 3 days. And he was being treated, as they said, according to reports, he was being treated after overdosing on opioids and benzos. I was just showing the term benzos. So he also said that Kevin Nash also said that his substance abuse stemmed from PTSD. So early when I said in part 1 that he suffered from that post-traumatic stress incident because the incident involving a man, he said he'll never forget it. And a lot of people interviewed him on the E60 feature and stuff. And then also in early 2013, DDP invited Hall to his home, like I said early, to sober up and rebuild his life ground up, physically, mentally, professionally, and spiritually. So, and they did a fundraiser drive too, which raised nearly $110,000, $30,000 over their $80,000 goal to help pay for hip replacement surgery and some dental work for him. So, which was good, man, because Hall, in his mindset, he was like, well, these fans don't give a fuck about me. I don't even give. He said, I don't even give a fuck about me. So why should they give a fuck about me? Reason being, man, hey, guys like him, Jake Roberts, shit, we all grew up watching them. They were all part of our childhood, growing up. And hey, like I said, at the time I saw Scott Hall growing up, and then I remember him in the Razor Ramon gimmick. I was 14 years old. I remember seeing Jake wrestle when he kept bringing Damien when I was 8. So at 5 going on 7 going on 8. So all those guys are part of our childhood, and these are fans that actually care for them. They didn't want to see the people that raised their money for Scott Hall for that dental work and the surgery. Hey, they didn't want to see that man be what is this? Okay, they didn't want to see. Hey, they didn't want to see their childhood hero down. They was looking out for him to help him out. But sadly, he was early March 22. He was hospitalized after falling and breaking his hip. He underwent hip replacement surgery. A blood clot was dislodged, and he resulted in him suffering 3 heart attacks on the 12th of March. And then he was put on life support in Georgia. And said Monday he was taking off that month. Monday he was taking off life support, and thousands of wrestlers did various tributes to him. Hey Yo, Damian Priest did his the little Razor Ramon strut and everything. So man, hey, we lost a great wrestling community, and even us in our childhood, we lost a great dude. He leaves behind 2 children. His son Cody, who wrestles, who's a wrestler himself, and he leaves a daughter Cassidy, and because she's not, she doesn't be involved, she doesn't get talked about much on in professional world. But I follow his daughter. I follow both Cody and Cassidy on Instagram, and wow, it's just bad. It's just crazy, man. That hey, we again, we lose one of growing up, we lose one of our heroes we watched on TV growing up. Um, can I recommend some matches to check out? Some good Scott Hall matches, Razor Ramon matches to check out. Shit. The only thing I can think of and come to mind is he had some good matches with Bret Hart in '93. Uh, ooh, and like I said, the ladder match at WrestleMania 10 with HBK for the Intercontinental title, which was good. And if you want to see the sequel to that, the ladder match of SummerSlam '95 was also good as well. So them are the only good matches I could think of. But his Hall of Fame speech, uh, which was pretty good. He said, "But bad guy." I can't think of the speech at this moment what he said though, but it's true. And heaven and gain, purgation and gain themselves. Bad guy, that was good. So Scott, rest in peace. Rest well, my man. Rest well, bro. Rest well. So I'm gonna end it off by playing NWO music. I'm Craig L. Smith II, and the pleasure's been all yours. Oh, I forgot one editor's note. I want to say this. It just had a brain fart. It just came to me. About with Scott Hall. Let me take that back. About with Scott Hall. Despite all his faults and everything, he had his faults. We, as us as wrestling fans, we should remember him for putting smile on kids. Like I said, for putting smile on kids' face. and not remember him for several incidents and everything he had outside of the ring. We all had our faults. He had, believe me, hey, he had his faults. Who didn't? So, like I said, let's remember Scott. Um, for him being for putting, like I said, for putting smiles on our faces. Acapulco, like I say, for putting butts in the seats. Because if his name was on the marquee on the match, Razor Ramon or Scott Hall, yeah, you was going. You wanted to go pay your money to see Scott. You know, and but like I said, despite his faults, let's all remember him for being who he was. He put smiles on our faces. Made us happy. He made us mad. He made us happy. He made us cry at times. He make me cry. He'll piss us off. Because you never know what's going on with a person behind the scenes. So again, Scott Hall, rest well, my friend. I played the NWO music for you as a tribute to you. You made sure the guys in the wrestling business got their guaranteed money, made sure they were taken care of and stuff like that. Make sure they got their bread. And everything else you contribute to the business, your creative ideas, because if it wasn't for you, the Crow Sting, we wouldn't have the Crow Sting. So thank you for that. A lot of people didn't know that. He the one suggested Sting be the Crow. So if y'all remember the movie The Crow with the late Brandon Lee, Scott was known to be creative, man. And when you're born under the Libra umbrella, we're all creative. And among other things, so he contributed to the business and he gave back in ways people never would imagine. So Scott Hall, rest well, my friend. And this tribute video I did, and if the Hall family is listening, this tribute video I did to him, the best I could. The pleasure has been all yours. Once again, Craig L. Smith II signing off. Y'all have a good one.